Guys, we're at Keyhole Barbell today here in Apollo, Pennsylvania. We are here with the 2016 Powerlifting Coach of the Year.
Correct. Yes.
Keyhole Barbell and the owner of All Things 5, fifth set, Swede Burns. Swede, thanks for being on today, bud.
So, happy to be here.
Yeah, man, we're glad to have you.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
I think we just talked for about 4 hours.
Yeah,
So we'll go back around to some stuff.
Yeah, we already did the whole thing.
We just forgot to turn
This is all pre-planned.
Go ahead.
So, just give everybody a little bit of background. Like, how did you get into lifting weights and stuff like that?
All right, I'll tell this tired fucking story.
It's such a generic question, but
I started. Well, I mean, I just
the people want to know.
It is what it is. I started lifting really early in life. I was probably 11 or 12 years old, right around the time. Can you please bring me that? right around the time that. Right around the time I started writing, actually. I got a Hulk Hogan weight set.
Hell yeah.
And that my parents got me, my mom got me for Christmas.
Fuck yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Just listen to Real American in the basement.
It was like, there was the sand shit, you know? There were red plates with the sand in it.
Yeah.
And,
I feel like everybody had one of those at some point.
yeah, like you could put concrete in it or whatever, you know? It's supposed to weigh like 20 pounds, but you don't fucking know. Who knows what it is?
One one's up here, one's down here.
Yeah, the one inch bar, actually, I think I had the exact bar right here.
I see it right now.
Hell yeah. Bring it on.
So this is the original bar? Or
This
this
is
is one of them?
actually
That's what it looked like.
This is just a very.
This is where fifth set started.
It's on this bar. And I had like a red piece of plastic that went over the whole thing, and it was spin on the bar.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's something like that, and you know, I wanted to be jacked like a pro wrestler, so I figured I would do what they did, and with weights, and I did like bench presses and shoulder presses, like military presses and barbell rows every day, and that was it. I did them every day for like probably 4 years.
Jesus Christ.
I would work out with other neighborhood kids, and I can remember telling them like, dude, you missed. Like you just lost like 3 weeks worth of training.
You missed Sunday's work.
Like if you miss it, like I'm like, like you just moved back so far. Like in my mind, I had this very rudimentary understanding. Like I knew that training made you bigger, but
You thought it was more
I figured it was like you just couldn't miss. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't.
You don't have to recover.
It would just go away. Yeah, like the work you did would go away.
Yeah.
Like it would just build up, and I'm like, I would see bodybuilders. Like I remember thinking, like, dude, these guys almost not missed for like 15 years.
Yeah.
You know? Like I had to get that big. And you know, obviously, eventually, once I was a little older, I started to do research, and I was really interested in how the body worked. And I spent years learning about nutrition and training and experimenting with different things and learning from different people and stuff. But yeah, I started super young, and I did my first kind of meet situation where we did the lifts, you know. When I was in high school, I went to a correctional school. It was like my 4th correctional school, and they didn't have any type of real sports like wrestling or anything, which is what I did. So they had powerlifting. They had like the teacher. It was a teacher coach named Mr. Davis, and he competed in powerlifting, I believe. And he's the first person who taught me how to like really squat, and got me set with that stuff. So from there, it was kind of off to the races. I was always stronger than everybody else. I think starting at a young age helped a lot. My bench was really good. Like by the time I was 16, I had 300 in a meet, and before I graduated, I had 400. Wow. So yeah, so that's pretty good. I mean, for a kid who was young and never did anything, you know, it was just. I used to bring turkey sandwiches to school because I knew you needed protein. Well, I didn't really know much about like.
Protein's protein.
So I figured that, you know, I needed a lot of turkey, so I would just fill turkey sandwiches up. I needed like 2 of them every day.
Hell yeah.
And it seemed to work, you know, in the beginning. Things got harder from there. After high school, I decided I wanted to do bodybuilding. I figured there's really nothing else to do in powerlifting. Powerlifting was, at the time, predominantly geared lifting.
Yeah.
You know, everybody was in gear. And that means, you know, I sucked in the gear. I never did gear. You know, we had the bench shirts that are like single ply, like the, you know, closed back, pull over ones.
The old school ones?
Yeah, the ones that didn't really do shit. And I couldn't get anything out of them anyway. Like I felt like I could lift more without.
Yeah.
And I did lift more without. And I can remember like at the first competition, he was like, "It's okay." He's like, "That's called raw. That's like what hard asses do." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking raw. I'm gonna be fucking raw," you know. But it was different because at that time nobody was fucking raw. Like it wasn't cool at all. It was like people would be like, "Oh." They would like feel bad for you. They'd be like, "Do you want to use my shirt?" You know what I mean? Like,
like everyone did.
Yeah, like you're the fucking disabled kid, you know. But timing wise, it really worked out well for me because it put me like way ahead of other people when things started going that direction. I had already been doing that type of training for a fucking decade.
Yeah.
So, dude,
What's good?
young Keith Connie just entered the building. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So, obviously, you're the creator of Fifth Set. I mean,
Yes.
we were talking before, I don't think people realize how long Fifth Set has been in development for.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I talk about it in the books and stuff, but I think that most people have a very surface understanding of what Fifth Set even is.
Absolutely.
I hear people make comparisons to programs like 531, and there's really not much similarity there, aside from there was a type of AMRAP involved in that program. Other than that, it's really not similar in any way. It's all the volume is done in the same percentage range, which I think is crucial. That's the biggest thing. Because all the neurological effects, the neurological adaptation that happens within the session is, I think, dependent on the fact that all of that stuff is done in that same percentage range. And it's a very effective range from 75 to 85% is really the only place that you're able to, for, I would say, the vast majority of lifters, that's the only range where they're able to make technical correction that's effective, where they'll be able to, it won't just instantly degrade, you know. Take the average person, put 90% on their back and give them tech correction, see what happens.
Yeah.
Nothing. It looks like shit. They break down, they're failing already.
Yeah.
So by sticking in that range and running the method the way that it's prescribed and doing all that volume in that specific percentage with the specific movements that are what we do in competition, you become really good at them. And you know, the result is kind of manifest at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be able to put it together on the platform consistently. The numbers are all laid out. The formulas are beyond proven at this point, like the attempt selection protocols and stuff like that. I know you said you ran and you did great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
40 pounds on one cycle on your deadlift.
Yeah.
And stuff like that is not, you know, it's not uncommon at all. It's basically what's to be expected at this point. How much you're going to put on in a training cycle is something that varies from person to person based on genetic predisposition and a lot of factors where you fall on the bell curve. You know?
Yeah.
I've repeated this shit to the point of nausea, but what it comes down to is that, like, there's adaptability is a big thing. You know, recoverability is a big thing. Dexterity is a big thing. Motor potential is a big thing. These are things that really come from fucking mom and dad, much more so than your training. But regardless of where you fall on that bell curve, you can get better. You know, and it's just a matter of what's the best way to get better. And honestly, I think for everybody, it's Fifth Set or something similar to that. It's that type of methodology that involves a long-term approach.
Yeah.
It's not about a meet prep. It's about your career in lifting and sort of consistently making foundational improvements that allow you to, when you do peak, have it actually be something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think,
and something sustainable.
yeah.
The issue you run into is dudes are just peaking all the fucking time. Like it's 90% all the time. And it's like, well, when do you get better?
Yeah, it's not just, exactly.
And the usual answer is like, well, assistance work. But unfortunately, it doesn't usually play out that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to correct the way you're doing the movement with an arm movement.
You have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the activation is a better way to go. And then technical cues. And I mean, I've arrived at that opinion based on thousands of people, thousands of performance corrections, just seeing this stuff implemented again and again and again. Like even at any given moment, I'm working with 30 plus lifters. Greg has 150 lifters on his Train Heroic at any given time. You know, these are people that are working directly with us.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of others that are doing it on their own.
Yeah, the fucking book.
Yeah, buy both books. Honestly, the second book, I think, like, you know, a lot of people were scared. They're like, oh, I pay $40 for what is basically the same book. It's not. There's so much more shit in there.
It's 40
Even
bucks,
if
dude.
you just bought it for the templates for the MSM sequence system, which is basically like it's a long view of periodization for powerlifting, in my opinion, the best way to do it. You know, there's, like we were talking about before, every capacity that you develop will enhance the subsequent capacity that you're training in the next mesocycle. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
You hear people throw around a lot of catchphrases for like different laws and like the law of accommodation. And the biggest issue I have with that is I think that most people that use that term don't really understand what it means. Because, I mean, what it comes down to is that any training means will lose its training potential over time. So a training means is, I'll define that because it's not a very common used terminology. A training means could be like deadlift for 4 sets of 10. So basically a movement and then the way that it's applied is referred to as a training means. So any movement and the way that it's applied, if you don't change it, will lose its training potential eventually. So someone took that idea and ran with it, and they were like, well, we're just always going to fucking change the training means. Every session, every week, every 3 weeks. The problem with that is huge, because the training potential for a training means increases before it decreases, and it increases dramatically. And this is made clear in if you've ever done an exercise for the first time and you suck at it, and then the second time you do it, the next time you're like, holy shit, I'm so much stronger at it already. Yeah. You're not really stronger, you're just better at doing the movement because you've never done it before, okay? So that's a big thing. So if there's a learning curve, if there's a period of 3 or 4 or 5 sessions before you're even really good at this movement, before you're even recruiting the motor units effectively to really train that movement, and you've already switched it after the third time doing it, you never got half of what you could out of that movement even once. And then there's the issue of, well, how long can I ride this out, which should always be the question. Not how quickly can I switch something, it should be how long can I ride it out, that it's still gonna be effective and it's still gonna have really good training potential. So if you're switching shit all the time, you're never getting what you could out of each movement. You're not gonna last as long as you could. You know, that's what it comes down to. I prefer to like drag shit out as long as you possibly can. If it's still working, why are you fucking with it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. You know, I think that we have an environment now with the internet and everything being so pseudoscience-y, where it's like I'm just gonna get really scientific in this bitch every time I train. You know, I'm gonna apply every law of training. You know, but I'm not gonna bother to actually learn or understand what these fucking laws mean.
Just say
why they came about.
I got it off.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I read it once on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm not shitting on anybody in particular with that. It's a huge across the board issue. You know, I think we could do a better job at looking at what are we actually seeing here.
Yeah.
You know, like because that's the answer that you'll get if you ask somebody why are you rotating movement so frequently. Law of accommodation.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the law of accommodation is making you rotate the movement every? You saying that it's not effective after 2 weeks? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
well, I understand like what's going on in like, for example, the way like how you would run like a conjugate system for the main work. You need to rotate the movement, and the reason for that is that it prevents defensive inhibition. So like training over 90% for an extended period of time, there's something called neurological defensive inhibition, where your body will actually fucking jumble, your nervous system will jumble the motor unit recruitment patterns to keep you from hurting yourself.
Just shuts off.
It's nature's way of saying like, don't do any more fucking work, dude.
Yeah.
This intensity is too high. It's going to cause some neurological consequences that are maybe not good. Mm-hmm. So it's meant to be a deterrent. But we're powerlifters, and we're like, I'm going to fucking do it anyway. Yeah. You know. So the people will keep trying to max in the same movement every week, and then eventually they get weaker. But you can rotate the movement, and you can actually, a series of movements, especially if it's a small series of movements, you can continue to get better for a good period of time. You know, and as far as the argument of whether or not that is the best way to train, obviously I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean,
some people do well with it.
Yeah.
A lot of other people run into issues with it.
Yeah.
You know, I have my reasoning for the way that I do things, and I think I've made that pretty clear. I've done a good job of explaining that in my writing, in my books, in my column, and in a series of these type of conversations.
Videos, I think people like, 'cause it feels like almost for me, for someone that's been in the sport not that long, like 5 years, feels like you almost just like blew up like real quick. But I don't think people understand how long like, when did you, can you talk real quick about, like, when did you start? We were talking about how much data you have, and it's, like, truly remarkable.
So a lot of it is, a lot of this, the initial stuff, here's what's crazy, okay? I fell into a situation where we had very limited training implements.
Yeah.
So like the loading was crude. Plates were like plates that were fucking welded together because it's either that or you don't have that plate anymore. So it goes to the shop and gets fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's shit like that, like where you can't make 2.5 pound jumps. You can't, like, you know what I mean? Like it had to be, there weren't all these different variations and different options. We could deadlift, we could squat, we could bench press. But, you know, I had to go a volume way with it. There was a limit in terms of plates.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're never really going to be able to work on more than 600 pounds. So for when you got a bunch of really strong guys that get strong pretty quickly, that's an issue.
Yeah.
If everyone's maxing every time, which is what everybody wants to do. You know, I call that the high school method.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple different names for it. People even sell ebooks about it now, but it's the fucking high school. It's what you do when you're left to your own devices and you do whatever the fuck you want. You max every time.
Yeah.
It's not the best idea for a number of reasons, but in this situation, I realized that I was going to have to, so I used to put up in chart. The idea was, behind it was I was already familiar with that, and I kind of broke it down to basics and found, is there another way to do this? And I had to start from scratch. So I looked at what was the volume that we needed, and I knew that hypertrophy was going to be also very important, and we were limited in terms of what we could do for hypertrophy, so that was where the idea of the AMRAPs came in. I knew always, almost instinctively, that I had always run into issues with programming squat and deadlift too heavy in the same cycle. So the idea was that one would be an AMRAP and one wouldn't, and the one that wouldn't would be, we would lower the percentage, you'd lower the weight that you use on that relative to what your max was.
That would be the technique lift.
That would be, yeah, in the original protocols we referred to that as, yeah, just the technique speed lift.
Yeah.
So then what we would work on that is, and everybody's always coaching each other and like pushing each other. The idea was, this was in prison, by the way. I don't know if I was clear about that. But we were
Yeah, just so everybody knows.
But this was in state prison. And so we would push each other, and you know, you want to take everything seriously. So even on the light days, it was, we would find things to emphasize and really, you know, make a priority. So the priority in that case was speed and technique. So we would work on just better technique. And when I think of, like, I can't even remember in my head what kind of things I looked for, what the cues were back then. Because I've coached hands-on thousands of lifters since then.
Yeah.
So my opinions have changed dramatically. But the basics are still the same. And it worked then and it works now. And when I got out of jail, I wanted to, you know, I was like, well, now I have access to all this other shit.
Yeah.
So I was going to find a way to use this to make it better, which I think is human nature. We see something good, we want to improve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a series of attempts of me just fucking up what was working really well by trying to add different shit and doing different movements for a fifth set.
Yeah.
You know, running the same protocols with different variations of the movements. And it just didn't carry over as well. You know, which was the same issues that I ran into with other types of training that rotated the movements. I wasn't getting as much carryover. Like, I would get really good at doing good mornings, but my deadlift was still sucking. My squat wasn't getting better. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's no good morning division in powerlifting.
There might be.
Maybe
There might be
soon enough.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like there is sometimes.
We need more state records.
Maybe because of the way people are training, but it looks like people are doing good mornings a lot of times.
There needs to be more state records.
Yeah, that too. We need more divisions.
Swede is actually the Apollo World Champion.
Yeah, I'm the all-time greatest powerlifter ever in Apollo Theater.
The one cool thing I think you said before we got into this was you always, like, what you just said, you've always tried new things and tried to apply them, but you've always had a why to applying them, right? Or everything you do, like any of your lifters or anything that you're doing.
Why?
If someone walks in here and they say why, you can explain it, right?
Yeah,
I can give you the answer for everything. And I challenge anyone that wants to go against the things that I say. I'll debate with you face to face, head to head, with no fucking.
We'll host it on the Not Another Powerlifting podcast.
Anywhere.
Anytime.
No, we already called it.
Because the thing is this, dude. Like, if you can't rationalize, give me like a really good objective of like, what is the reason that you're fucking doing this? Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned some protocols that people are doing, and well, why? What is the goal in that? What is the objective? Mm-hmm. If you can't give me that, you're just swinging in the fucking dark, man. You're just trying different shit. You're just, you know, it's randomness.
Yeah.
There's no
Now,
place.
that does
there's
work
no
for a
place.
while, but you have to
Anything works for a
fill that
little
period.
bit.
Exactly.
Anything
yeah.
works for a little bit, but the idea is to find something sustainable.
Exactly.
You know, and the way that we have the fifth set macro cycle set up now, it's sustainable forever. It is.
Yeah.
I've never run into a wall with it, where people can run it their entire fucking career. And people can run it later in their career. People
You
can
have
run it when
people
they're
that
already
run
Yeah.
fucking
Okay.
Ellen
Look at
Stein
Ellen, I was just gonna say Ellen
is
Stein.
PR'd at every meet in the last fucking 3 years.
Yep.
I mean, and she's 65 years old, and she's got a top 3 total open of all the 132s.
Yep.
You know, she's probably
She's
the greatest
incredible. I
of
saw
all
her. I
time.
see her lift. It was pretty
Dude,
awesome.
unreal. She's actually right now, as we're doing this here, she's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame for USPA.
Really?
In Vegas here right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there, but it's just because next weekend I have.
You wanted to be on this podcast. That's
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
We're real popular, guys.
Well, I have a seminar here next weekend, and then the weekend after that, I'm coaching her at her meet in Buffalo. She's doing
okay.
a USPA meet in Buffalo, which is another.
So she's inducted in the Hall of Fame, but she's still doing meets and still PR, and
That's fucking
so
awesome.
Dude, she's actively she competes
Yeah.
more than any other female in 132. I don't, and outperforms every time, every single time she
Yep.
PRs, and all through all these different divisions. She does raw, she does wrapped, she does single ply. Like she won the fucking she won the Olympiad, she won the Arnold for her weight class 2 years in a row, a 65-year-old woman.
That's fucking awesome.
Against all these, even like the elite females, my teammates from elite, she beat them. These are like girls in their fucking, early 30s, late 20s. She's
That's
65.
incredible.
Insane. She's gonna total 1,100 in reps.
At 132.
At 132, at 65 years old, yeah, and she's already, well over 1,000, and she's creeping on 1,000 raw. She might actually this weekend coming up. I'm thinking if it's in the cards, she'll total 1,000. Like it's there based on her peaking cycle numbers without reps. To total 1,000 without reps for a female at 132 is really impressive. To do it at 65 and have shown a consistent trend of progress for this many years is fucking insane. And to argue against that is absurd.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah,
counter.
just-
You know what I mean? She doesn't get hurt. Talk about limited recoverability. This is a woman that's like,
in her 60s.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Talk about limited recoverability.
There's no
Talk about
recoverability.
A woman in her 60s.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's
That speaks volumes
really
to
no
her
excuse. Exactly. Well, I mean, she's a freak. She's really good. That's what it comes down to. It's important to point that out. But, ultimately what it comes down to is that, like, the people that are the freakiest, that have the most talent, are the most likely to get injured because they do the dumbest shit.
Yeah.
They don't have to think.
Because they can. Because they get away with it and it works.
They've always been the big fish in a small pond.
Well, you
until a
see people that, they've been competing, and I won't name names, but there's 4 or 5 right now that have been competing for 3 years or less, and they have fucking all-time numbers.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they're really fucking talented.
They're freaks.
So it's not what they're doing. But you're gonna buy their training template on the fucking internet. They don't even know it. The thing is, these people are good in spite of what they're doing, not because of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any type of progressive
We talked about
resistance
that
training
before
is
we
gonna
actually
make these
did.
people amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's very deceptive if you only look at that group.
Yeah.
Because do what they're doing, and you're gonna suck. You're gonna be injured really quickly, and honestly, they're probably gonna be injured really quickly. If you look at the last 10 years from a macroscopic view of where raw powerlifting basically started to become a real thing to now to where we're at now, where it's the only thing, where we have almost 20,000 active raw competitors in the sport of powerlifting, and we're down to like less than 200 in multiply.
That's crazy.
It's different. So it has flip-flopped.
Very
It was never the majority was multiply, but the majority at these type of meets was.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been single. Single was the majority for the most part because the USAPL was single ply, almost exclusively, and that is by far the lion's share of competitors. As we've gone raw, though, things have kind of been twisted on their head. You have now there's a slim margin of people that are still doing single ply. Vast majority of the total people competing in powerlifting are raw. And when I say vast, I mean like we're talking it's like in the 87% range.
Really? I would have guessed even higher.
No, well, there's still a good amount of single.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of international competitors in the IPF that are still single ply. There's a lot of USAPL that's still single ply. There is a lot of competition there, and even USPA still has pretty big meets in single ply. Olympia is a huge meet, you know.
Yeah.
That's always a fun time. But yeah, ultimately it's raw now. So it went from a situation where it was not to where so it was weird for me, and it was unique to be able to have that. To
You
see
were right in
that.
that window of watch that.
Yeah, when you look, you see that the way people have changed, have trained, has changed dramatically.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you know, people will make claims, whatever. It's kind of, what it comes down to is like, I'm a rubber meets the road kind of guy. Like, the proof is in the pudding. If everybody's doing something and doing well with it, there's probably a reason.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because, you know, we talked about a little bit about high-level guys put the programs out. You know, that's what works for them. It might not work, but that's not what they always did.
Most of the time, you run into a situation where they're good in spite of it, what they're doing, not because of it. And the reason for that is like people that are really talented, like the guys we're talking about that are like 1%ers or even like the 0.01%ers, really very elite, far right side of the bell curve in terms of talent. They're going to be good no matter what they do. They train heavy.
They can do anything.
So as a result, they tend to do the most asinine shit you can imagine.
Yeah.
And the result of that is they're then convinced that because they're better than their peers, they're better because of this asinine bullshit that they made up, which is you end up with the fucking Jimbo Martinez, you know, powerlifting method that doesn't work for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for that person.
Because the
It's
thing
because
is,
they
it's
already-
not. Is it optimal for him? Fuck
No.
no. He's running himself in the ground. He's doing asshole shit. He's doing a bunch of made up gimmicky things, and that's why we have now what I was getting at. In this, if you look at this 10-year picture, the average powerlifting career for someone who's a real competitor, for someone who's a top 10 lifter, is about 3 years now. They show up, they hit a crazy total, maybe they hit another one, then they hit a slightly subpar total or two, and then they start disappearing. You got some people that'll hit 8 or 10 really good, fucking amazing, like world-class totals in a row, and then it's just a very slow
A
decline.
lot of them just falls off.
Yeah, you can't maintain it.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. Like I was talking about, you might be someone who has a potential to, in your lifetime, hit a 2,200 raw total. But let's say that would take 13, 15 years of training and being intelligent and not getting injured.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is, you can, if you really go balls to the fucking wall on redline, you can get a 2050 total.
But then you're going to be out.
And it's only going to take you 3 years.
Yeah.
But then the problem is you'll never see that other 150 pounds. You know, you'll never get there.
Yeah.
It's a long-term sport. It's who's in the long.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do this. You got to love the process. If you're doing it for any other reason, you're gonna end up broken and sad, and you're gonna leave the sport, and you're gonna lose what is part of your identity that you could keep for a really long time. So it's a shame.
See, you're also a guy that's been in it. I don't know if a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know, but I don't think a lot of people realize when they read the 5th Step program. You know, you got big pretty fast. I mean, as far as like when I come into the sport, you're one of the guys that blew up as soon as I got around.
Yeah,
And
I mean, the thing is that I was already coaching at every meet. I was already
exactly.
Anybody that was actually in powerlifting knew me. The things that changed was like became a household name because of the elite stuff, and when we actually released the book.
Yeah, that was what I was going to get at. Was a lot of
There's a lot
people.
of non-competitors.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much research you've actually put into.
No, I have
that program.
I have everything. I have all the data.
Yeah.
I have everything. Every performance that I've ever coached. Every person that's ever reported to me their results from 5th Set, I have an email specifically for that I just.
If you want to plug that at the end, we can plug that.
Yeah.
For anybody that trains 5th Set.
Honestly, if you message me, you fucking DM me. We'll work it out. It's very easy to do. I like to have that information. So, and it's really just a few questions I ask. Did you run at least one full meso before doing?
I ran it for 2 weeks. It didn't work.
Before doing the peaking cycle, and did you use the attempt selection protocol? And as a result, after what was thousands of performances, is that cool? That's okay. As a result of what was thousands of performances, I had to adjust. I saw some deviation on the bench, the 3rd attempt selection for bench. So we changed it, and there's a new formula. And I tested a new formula for 2 years, and now the bench one's perfect. So now there's literally over the course of 12 years, I have ironed out every fucking problem that you could run into with a training method, just from having so many people do it. And I was fortunate enough that like between me and Greg and Brandon's not really with us anymore on the tour, but like it's me and Greg, and we're exclusively on the 5th Set stuff now, teaching the methodology. we had an opportunity over the course of 3 years to work with 3,000 lifters.
That's ridiculous. That's so much data.
3,000 lifters. No, I mean hands-on in a seminar setting.
Yeah.
So what that did is it just really polished me as a coach. Like I feel like I got so much better in that time because of seeing so many different problems and the way they manifest, like in different people, and learning how people learn differently. You know what I mean? So working with a lot of different people, having that crazy volume of like, who's ever done that? Who's ever worked with that many people hands-on? It's allowed me to become really good, like to where this is a thoughtless endeavor. When I'm correcting, it's thoughtless. I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening.
I've watched you coach 25 lifters at one meet.
Right.
Yeah, I've
Right, you've
watched
seen it.
Yeah, I've watched it in person.
Exactly. And,
It was like
You coached me.
everybody PR'd
Yeah.
out of those people. Like to coach 25 lifters in a meet, people are like, oh, it's somebody suffering. They think as a result of having.
Yeah.
No, I'm just fucking.
You just
prepared.
throw your belt on and
I just know what to do.
run around.
That's it.
It's
run.
pretty
That's
incredible.
it.
Fucking crazy.
That's coaching. You know, everybody wants to be a fucking coach now. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand.
I mean,
Yeah.
honest to God, you had 25 lifters at that meet, and you also coached me through my 3 bench steps.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know you that
And
well.
then I drove overnight and coached like fucking.
The Cincinnati one.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati.
There was another one the
Women's-
next day. I was asleep.
whatever it was.
That was the women's pro. I mean, that was probably 2 years ago. I think.
Yeah.
That wasn't this last one.
Yeah,
It's
that,
fucking crazy.
Yeah.
and I would have PR'd my squat, but I didn't listen to you. I made it 10,000. I swear to God, I didn't do that.
It is what it is, man. It fucking happens. You know?
Right.
You live and learn. I mean, you won't
Yeah.
make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing.
I PR'd my total at least.
Yeah.
It would have been better if I did my squat.
You also called out Brandon Lillard.
That was great.
On his Instagram story.
Pulled 645 and called out Brandon Lillard.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he laughed at that.
Yeah,
He said
he's a,
that back. He responded.
he's a good dude. But the reason I asked the question, to go way back before you kind of tailed off there about that always being able to answer why, I think that's a good advice to new lifters because the sport is raw is so popular right now and it's what everyone sees on Instagram, and I think so many people are just jumping into it expecting instant gratification.
Best advice I can give for what you're saying right now for a new lifter who's coming into this and doesn't really know much and doesn't have much experience, and then you run into the issue of we're so fucking overburdened on the internet with bad information because
Yes,
anybody can do it, is to ask why.
That's what that's what
You gotta learn to
getting
become
at.
a discerner, right? You have to learn to discern bullshit from good information. And the easiest way to do that is you wanna watch somebody's face get red and get really fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
When they say some asinine shit, the question you ask is, why do you do that? Like, what's the objective?
Yeah.
They
And
can't
if they can't answer,
If
there's
they
no
get
way
really,
to do
if
that.
they get really mad and indignant, then you know that they don't have any fucking idea why. They're just doing random
Yeah.
shit.
And you could be training with a kid that's very strong, like a 700-pound puller,
They don't-
but he could be what we just talked about.
Right.
They don't know.
Big caught, strong,
almost always
stay
talent.
one.
Like the fact you said he's a kid and it's not somebody who's been training for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, honestly, like I hate to do this, and I know all you guys are gonna get butthurt that are under 25 years old, but you don't fucking know anything. That's what it comes down to. You might think you do. And I was doing this, even if you're someone who is diligent about trying to learn from as many people as you can and attack as many sources of information as possible and digest it, right? Keep in mind and be open to the idea that in 10 years, your opinions are gonna fucking change.
Everything's
Because you're going to not only have this information, but you will have had it for a long enough time to form new opinions that are more intelligent. That's what it comes down to. You just
That's
need
why
more
we do it,
experience.
doing it as many people
So
want.
whenever you got some fucking loudmouth 22-year-old kid that's coaching everyone on the fucking internet for free, that's what. Even if he did get a lot of good information, even if half the shit he's saying is good, which good, because then he's head and shoulders above everybody else. Because 90% of people are just fucking charlatans right now. It's you got a bunch of like wienery fucking kids that are doing this pseudoscience bullshit and like they're gonna really correct your stuff, but no one's able to perform. It's crazy. It's like
Weird.
I've listened to you talk to your fucking phone in your car for like 2 hours of internet stories, and yet every person, all these great points you make, every person you work with fails to perform on the fucking platform. So
You have to watch who you're listening to.
right, well, be a discerner, and the best way to be a discerner is to question things.
And
When
that's
someone
help.
asks me a question and asks me like, what do I do with it?
You have
And
why.
the first thing I want to know, the first thing I'm going to ask you, what are you trying to accomplish? And that should be it. That's the root of everything. You need a train of logic between what you're trying to accomplish and what you've set up to do that. You know, what it is, whatever protocol or whatever fucking system of training or whatever fucking anything. Even just down to as simple as a training means. I'm doing barbell rows for 3 sets of 10. All right, why?
Yeah.
Should be a good reason there. Oh, I'm trying to develop my lat so that my bench press is more stable.
Okay,
That's enough. That's good enough. That'll do it.
A lot of people don't have that. They don't have that initial.
Honestly, they don't want it to be that simple. And there's a lot of people. People have made careers out of overcomplicating really simple fucking things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, like that's
Trying to seem smart.
Yeah, they want to really. You need me for this because this is just too fucking science for your ass. All right, you don't have a PhD. You can never even begin to understand this.
It's not that fucking difficult.
Dude, honestly, you're making it harder than it needs to be.
For no reason.
Yeah, like the shit that I just explained, like with, you can take any training law, and if someone can't explain it in 3 sentences, like don't listen to anything they have to say.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Like the better you are with information, the more comfortable you are with information, the easier it should be to communicate what that information is.
And by holding your coach accountable, like a 22-year-old coach.
I mean, as a coach, that's what I'm saying. Like you should be able to explain quickly,
exactly.
succinctly what you mean by that.
Yeah, but back to what we were saying about like always ask why if you're a new lifter. You're gonna make that 22-year-old coach a better coach anyway by embarrassing him, and then he's never gonna let that happen again. So
That's like you
or
said.
no,
You
I hope he might. He might have an ego. That's the problem. The ego.
He will
Is,
get red in the face.
the ego is the enemy, man.
But then at least he's gonna get called out on his bullshit.
Yeah.
You'll know that.
I ate shit for fucking 15 years, man, to learn stuff from people. You know.
But you did it. That's the thing.
That's the
what makes
thing.
you a
And
good coach.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, it is what it is.
You have the experience, whereas a 22-year-old kid
If
doesn't.
you're qualifying yourself with your lifts, that's a problem. Doesn't fucking matter.
It's powerlifting. Nobody fucking
You should
cares.
now. You should. That's not to say that you could be some fucking wiener that doesn't lift. Like you should be lifting and competing and showing a trend of progress.
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, I have a 700-pound deadlift, you and everybody else, motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It is what it
It
is.
doesn't mean you know how to
Chances are that person's
Like
always
there's-
been 10 times stronger than everyone else around them.
Yeah, or they're more adaptable. They're able to adapt very quickly. I mean, I've seen people go from pulling a fucking 585 deadlift to pulling 765 inside of 18 months. That sounds crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's because they went
It
from
is
it's,
crazy.
fucking, it's because they're very talented. Or maybe they have long arms and a short torso. That's another big part.
Yeah.
You know, because you always look at all 3 lifts too. You know.
Yeah. Like
But my whole thing is this: if you show somebody who is able to either in themselves or in other people consistently perform in a way that's every subsequent performance is better than the precedent performance, that is a sign of someone that probably is doing the right shit.
Yep.
You know, and you can show a trend of that. Yeah, you can show a trend of that spans a period of years and show that and repeat that with multiple lifters. That's a coach you listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Staying healthy and continuously getting better over a long period of time.
Can
People
you think of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 people that someone has worked with that got better and didn't get hurt? And if that's the case, then that's somebody you listen to.
Yeah.
You know, and if you have, you know, you got somebody who is like riding the coattails of one big name, and they're like, I coached this person who did good, and
And that's all you hear about. You don't hear
yeah,
about
you don't hear anything else, or even better.
We're not gonna add them to the
Even
video.
there's a new fucking trend where like these dudes are like they're gonna reinvent the wheel. They're gonna go back to the old
If
ways,
it's not broke, don't
to the
fix it.
old ways of training. We're really super hardcore and like I'm just gonna give free programming to like 20 popular people. That's a new thing. These fucking headhunter coaches. It's like, dude, you have no coaching experience, but now you're gonna give free templates to all these like world-class lifters. And then if you watch the shit play out, you can see in real time and like bombs out of the meat. Worst performance. Ties PRs on 2 lifts and misses the third on the other one.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, wasted fucking time. And obviously you won't get that opportunity again because the lifters that you were working with for free, you get what you paid for.
Yeah.
Buy the
They're not going to ever come back again. They're never going to deal with you again. So, you know, the bottom line is, man, like advice to a lifter, learn to become a discerner, learn who to listen to, learn who to take good information from. The best way to do that is to ask a lot of questions. As a coach, be humble, keep your fucking head down, do what has been proven to work, okay? And learn from it what you can. And that will give you experience that's applicable towards your own things that you want to do. You can't just, everyone wants to come into this and they're like, I'm going to make my own soup that's better than everyone else's. But you don't know anything about making soup, motherfucker. You got to cut vegetables, you got to do all kind of shit. So do that for a few years.
Yeah. And
Learn.
people have been making that soup for 30 plus years. It's already laid out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everything's been laid out.
Yeah.
You can just tailor it to what you want it to be.
Imitation is important, man. It's a very important part of this.
I mean, it works, so you're going to imitate
If you
it, right?
take something that's proven and imitate it, that allows you to develop experience, and experience is very hard. Experience can be brutal. It can. It makes most people quit. Most people don't finish the course because they're like, this is fucking hard, man. I'm fucking things up. I don't want to keep doing it. So they don't ever get enough experience to become good, to reflect on what they've done in their experience and look back on it and say, this is what I learned from this. They don't ever get to that point because they already want to know everything. But
that's why, like you mentioned, the average life is what? Did you say 3 years?
it's turning into about 3 competitive years. They do a good performance, within 3 years they're gone.
They're out.
It didn't used to be that way.
It got hard.
It got hard. That's what happened. Is
It got hard. I'm out.
reality showed up, and now you need to know the things to keep going
Yeah.
that you never took the time to learn because you already fucking knew everything.
You're only in it for
What's
3
the difference
fucking
between
years.
that 2050 and 2200?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Is it seems like not that much. They're both impressive totals, but one's world class and one is going to be forgotten very quickly.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
the difference between.
And that's
those two
everything
things.
3 and 15 years in sport.
Right. That's the difference between exactly. You could get to one point really quickly where you can show a consistent trend of progress, stay healthy, always do better at every meet. It's fun to PR. Why
Yeah,
not?
that's the whole point of the
PR,
sport, right?
PR every 6 months for 10 years. You're gonna be happy as shit.
I've never been sad from PR.
Yeah, nobody ever goes up and says like, "Oh man, I only PR'd 70 pounds today."
Damn it.
If they do, they're a petulant child, and they're not gonna last long.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down
They'll
to.
be out in 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Imagine that. So that would be if you did 70, say it was 75 pounds. That would be 150 pounds a year. Imagine if you could add 150 pounds a year to your total for 10 years.
That's disgusting.
Right? That'd be insane, right? Fuck, where did you start? You know what I mean? It won't continue to work that way, but
Yeah.
fuck. I mean, that's what I'm saying is like, people act like that's not enough. Like, imagine if you could continue to replicate that. Like, fuck.
If you
more.
get 5 pounds
It's
on
not
the
enough.
every year.
Yeah, fuck, it's something. Yeah, on every lift, that's 15 pounds.
Yeah.
If you could do that, yeah, fuck yeah. Especially if you're already at a point where you're somewhat decent, it does slow to that at a certain point.
Yeah.
You got 10 years of training correctly under your belt, it is going to be a 15 pounds, 20 pounds a year situation. And that's cool.
You're still progressing, though.
Fucking right. Like, look at Sin. Sin was, do you guys know who Sin is? I think she was at
Yes, the
Sin Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, like Sin is my best friend. She's my fucking, that's my heart. She's my backbone. Helps me with all this shit. But the way that we started working together was she was done with powerlifting. Like we were friends, we would talk, and she was just like, she was already an elite lifter, like she'd already done wrong. And she just was like, I just can't get any better. She just wasn't interested in it anymore. Didn't like the way she was training. It just kind of felt like fuck. Like
It's
it
kind of
wasn't-
burnt out.
had a shitty, the last meet was shitty, and it's just like she wasn't getting any better. So I was like, let me help you.
Yeah.
And she did. And I just basically put her on, gave her the regular basic template for fifth set. She ran it for 6 months, huge PRs. And now 4 years later, she's PR'd every single
Yeah,
meet.
we competed the same meet.
She's put like 300 fucking pounds more on her total that was already elite.
Yeah.
And she's
Wow.
continuing to do that now.
That also speaks for the program a lot because you have people that have just got into lifting that can use the program and they're going to improve. Then you have people at an elite level that have been competing for a long time. They got that little bit left.
So many times, dude.
You're tapping into that little bit that they got left.
It is what it is, man. I don't fucking mince words. Like, there's so many examples of people that have started with this program and gone really far and then tried to go a different direction and they're done.
That's what we talked about before we went on cameras. You've had people that had never touched the bar before started with this program and they're, what did you say, like top 10?
Tara had a top 10 all-time total.
There you
She
go.
had never done any lifting prior to fifth set.
Wow.
And she rode that through, I want to say 11 performances that were consistent PRs.
So you have every type of lifter on
You
the
have every
on the
population
curve,
of lifter,
right?
right?
Every meet. She hired me to do like strength and conditioning and help her lose weight for softball because she was a collegiate softball player.
Oh,
She had just
okay.
gotten cut from her team. And,
Yeah.
she just wanted to get back on. So I was like, all right, no sweat. We can do that. And we'll do some training too that'll help you for your sport. So I just put her on like a modified fifth set that I use for athletes basically. She dieted, got a lot smaller. And we realized that she had really good potential for lifting. She got strong really quick, like just accidentally.
Yeah.
She was doing like 65 pounds on bench for her fifth set stuff. And this is like a girl that was like a 300-pound bencher.
Jesus Christ.
So in the course of a year and a half, she went from, like I said, like she got cut from the one team to where she was National Collegiate Player of the Year, first team All-American.
Jeez.
Jesus
Fucking,
Christ.
yeah, like she was athlete of the month, like fucking
So you
six
can
times.
tailor fifths to anything. athletes,
it's just very,
general fitness
yeah,
population,
absolutely. These are
powerlifters.
capacities that are used in every sport. Could you be more specific to a certain sport? Absolutely. But
You're
for a
using
general, yeah, absolutely. For a general strength training program, it's awesome because you're training linear strength endurance, non-linear strength endurance,
Yeah.
absolute strength, maximal strength, speed strength. All that stuff is getting hammered. Like all that stuff is improving. All those markers are going to improve, so your performance in the sport's going to improve, assuming you have any potential for that sport.
Yeah.
Which obviously she did. She was a really good pitcher,
Yeah.
and I think she had the home run record, which who pitches and has
Yeah.
and bats, and she also had the record. So it was like she went from it was there. You can't put that on FitSet. It's talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what it did was allow her to train in a way where she didn't get injured. You know. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think she's even lifting anymore. Or if she is, it's certainly not anywhere near the level that she was.
See, it's funny when you have a reason for the question why to those principles,
Yeah.
things work.
Yeah.
It's effective.
It's
When you have
effective.
reasons, it's effective.
That's the thing.
You know what the fuck you're talking about.
That's how you discern bullshit from stuff that's actually going to be valuable information, stuff that's valid. You know, if it's valid, you should be able to tell me why it's valid.
Mhm.
And it can't just be because of the law of accommodation. Okay,
You sound smart saying
but
it. though.
why? Because of the law of accommodation.
If you use big enough words, they won't question it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is it's almost like this condescending. Well, you dumbass, the Russians. It's like, well, have you read any of the Russian texts? Because I don't think you have.
Definitely not.
Like, I don't think you
But
understand.
they've met someone that almost read it.
Yeah, I don't.
If that's
think
somebody
you
who had it once, they didn't read it.
Yeah, maybe you had a good conversation with somebody who read it and you misunderstood what they said.
My cousin's Russian,
Well,
so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is this, dude. Like, and even since then, we're looking at one sport. So in powerlifting, there was no application to powerlifting for that stuff. So we've had to test and adapt and modify. And I think a lot of us, in terms of like people that are respectable coaches, started with the same information. And
Yeah.
just went different directions with it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's all out there.
I
like
got
I said.
respect, like I said, I have respect for anyone who has a train of logic behind what they're saying. Even if I don't think it's optimal, I'm not going to shit on it.
Because they still have a reason for
Yeah,
what they're doing.
There's still a reason
It's
behind it.
helpful, and that's how we make progress, dude. Like that's what it comes down to. Is like you have to be able to have that critical thinking, logical reasoning. You have to be able to fucking put together a plan of action. Tell me why. If it's a good plan, like fuck, run with it. That's how things improve. I'm not saying that what I do is the end all. It's the best I've ever seen. I've never seen anything that's even remotely in the neighborhood of being able to consistently put up the type of performances that we do with FitSet, that everybody that runs FitSet does. You know,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have a hard time finding somebody that's actually run the program for any period of time and shits on it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like you'll hear the only type of negative thing I've ever heard is people who were like, "Oh, I got stronger for a minute because FitSet was like a deload because I was doing so much before, and then like it didn't work anymore." And I'm like, "You ran 4 microcycles."
Yeah.
I saw some kid actually say that on the fucking thing. I'm like, run 40 microcycles and then tell me.
Yeah,
how
let
you
me know
feel.
how it is.
Because you're looking at a very microscopic view of you. Like, I'm just gonna test this out and find out if it's good and tell my friends on the internet. And it's like, well, my reps went down on my FitSet, so I got weaker. And it's like, well,
Maybe
do you
there's a lot of
understand
contributing
that
factors.
there's this
to that.
thing called fatigue
Yeah.
that can inhibit your ability to express your current level of fitness, in this case being strength, right?
Yeah.
So we might want to look at that before you say
it's
that.
your fault.
Before you say
That's your fault.
before you say that exceeding by 40% the requirements according to the Pro-Leptin chart, which is basically the fucking holy grail as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned for
I
volume.
think that's a pretty one thing that people don't bash.
Well, I mean,
Is that
You
true?
can't bash it.
the
Yeah.
thing is though, I think that people misapply it and misunderstand it. But
Mhm.
You
you're
definitely
right.
do that.
It's really hard to because
That's one thing.
Here's
that's
why.
wrong.
Take any method of training that's even remotely effective.
It's based on.
Pick anything. If it's not based on it, it still adheres to it.
Yeah.
Like Brandon will tell you, like when he put the cube stuff up, it was not
You
intended.
can actually look if you
It was
understand problem chart. You could see that it's.
It was not
It has
intended
program.
to be Pro-Leptin. It just happened that he did stuff that he found out worked by testing. And what do you know? When you look at the volume, it all reads Pro-Leptin. It's all on the fucking chart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and even anything, left side, conjugate, 2 lifts over 90.
Yeah.
That's if you go to 90%, that's what it tells you to do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it
fucking,
does.
it is what it is, man. It's
Dave Tate will tell you that all the time. too.
oh, 100%.
Yeah, you understand problem chart.
I mean, we're on the same page with pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's just the differences that we have are stylistic.
Mhm.
You know, any
Yeah.
good coach. That's
It's
what
Every
okay
coach
to-
has
like you
his
said, it's
bias.
okay, I think the point you made was great. It's okay to disagree, and you'll respect anyone just as long as they have a why.
if there's a reasoning behind it, and you think that's the best, and I can't give you something that's going to convince you otherwise, fucking do it your way.
Yeah.
I don't care. If somebody's doing something that's working really well and they're healthy, I'm like, keep doing that.
Yeah.
Fuck it, yeah.
That's always what I say.
Yeah.
Change it all.
Yeah, we're just gonna reinvent this whole fucking
90-pound total, I got it.
Yeah, 90 pound total. I gotta
Cool.
fucking. I gotta do a detox. I gotta drink some fit tea.
But
Yeah,
Gotta buy a booty building program. It's gonna be fun.
yeah,
I mean, in my opinion, if any powerlifting program should be a booty building program. If it's not, you're fucking up. That's the largest muscle in the body.
yeah.
Why would you not want that to be involved? It's literally the muscle group that your entire fucking spine sits on. You know, like,
It's way too logical.
right. If you're gonna be in a sport that involves actually loading, putting an
Your
axial
spine.
load on the spine, what's underneath the spine? Your fucking glutes. They should be big and developed,
Yeah.
and they should be active throughout every movement that you're doing, including bench press, which is something I think that is extremely overlooked.
Yeah.
It's understated.
That transfer of force.
And you have a
Having your glutes, having a solid method of bracing.
and you have a video about that,
Transfer.
right? You have a video online
I've
about
got a
the
bunch of videos for bench press.
bench press.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
they're all
serious.
out there for free. I mean,
Yeah.
people can
Yeah,
go
it's all
watch
out
the stuff.
Yeah,
you're talking
heels
about.
to traps video. Yeah, I mean, I just put the shit out there because I want people to use it.
Yeah.
And then it's easy for me when I'm working with clients. I'm like, hey, I want you to do this. Watch this video 10 times.
Mhm.
And I send them the video.
Yeah,
And
It
you
makes
know
it a
what?
lot easier.
It's crazy. Like the next week when they send me their videos, it's better.
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
that fucking easy.
It works.
Yeah, and how many people watch them and use them that aren't even working with me? It's so fun. That's
Yeah.
I've watched the videos. I mean, we ran fifth set for a while. How long we ran for?
2 macros.
2 macros.
Oh, really? Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we ran for.
But
I watch all your shit.
what
That's good.
So,
That's awesome, man. That's a good amount of time to invest.
I think you can take anything from almost any program and apply it to like.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, you
I've
should
taken
be.
so
The
much.
thing
from
is,
Pixar.
yeah, that's what I always say, man. Like, take the meat and spit out the bone.
Yeah,
There are aspects of fit set that are cool that other people take and use for other things, but I think the beauty of it is that it's a fucking symphony. It's the whole thing,
yeah,
the whole thing together. The way that it works, every part. There's nothing
That's what
there.
it is,
There's
right?
nothing there that doesn't need to be there, and there's enough options that there's enough moving parts that it is never going to stop improving on itself.
That's something that's hard to find now with
Right.
fitness going the way it is. A program that just has everything it needs and nothing it doesn't need.
Well, a methodology is laws. It's a series of rules. That's all a methodology is. These are the rules. This is what keeps you being a good boy.
That makes sense.
That's what it is, right? Do this, but don't do this, and that's
Yeah.
important. And when you have there are a lot of methods that are not truly methodologies because there's 60%, or even in some cases, admittedly, 80% of the work is randomness. It's like pick
Yeah.
this and pick that, and good luck. Do it on your own. How much? I don't know. Try enough. Yeah, like it depends how much
Enough
you need.
sets for enough
Yeah,
reps.
like you need more triceps, then put a lot more of that. And it's like, here's the thing: everybody needs the same shit. Like we're different, but we're not. We're way more similar than we are different. And especially like in the current state of things, everybody believes they're fucking this unique individual that
Yeah.
has special.
Well, that's like what Joe Sullivan.
And are there
kind of-
individual differences in lifter to lifter? Fuck
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about things like foot placement, fucking grip width,
Yeah,
leverages,
Generally, as
recoverability.
humans, we
Mostly,
have the same deficiencies.
no matter where the fuck you are, your needs are still on that pro weapon chart.
yeah.
You're full because there's a range, and you're
Yeah.
falling in that fucking range.
That's like what Joe Sullivan said. We had him on last week, and he said, take someone that's really good and seems real knowledgeable, and try to mimic what they're doing. So like he said, he took someone like he's a short, stocky dude. I know you know Joe. He said I looked at a couple guys of mine, and he's a thick bastard. And he said the reason I got thick is because these dudes had huge backs,
Yeah.
huge quads, and
I
he's like,
remember him being a fucking kid, like not that long.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. He's really good, man.
Yeah.
He came a long way. But yeah, that's right. And actually, that's what I even said in the first book.
Yeah,
Pick somebody
exactly.
Pick somebody that's built like you and try to
I remember
take the
reading
heavy
that.
lift. And I mean, it sounds oversimplified, but for fucking 90% of people, it'll work.
you're not going to find a good power through with a small lower back,
Right.
small upper back.
Right.
I mean,
The problem with that is, though, that we get too obsessed with that, and you have dudes that
Yeah,
are
that's true.
dudes that are trying to mimic positions that they'll never get into, like fucking, like Dan Green, who's like an amazingly talented outlier. If you're
There's a
trying-
reason
if
they're
you're trying
like
to
you,
set up
they're
and
not
lift,
you.
set up and trying to lift the way he lifts, like, dude, you are not him.
Yeah, very
You know
true.
what I mean? He's what's amazing.
You gotta
It's not
want to
what
stay
he's-
in your lane a little
It's
bit.
not the way he's lifting,
Stay
it's
in your
him. He's a fucking animal, you know what I mean? So there are certain things that are inviolable. There are certain sacrosanct truths to technique where no matter who you are, this shit should hold true. Like, you should be braced, you should have good intra-abdominal pressure, you should be neutral, period. Fucking arching your lumbar spine to squat is idiotic. And I want someone to explain to me why it's not. I'd love to hear how it's a good idea to axially load your fucking spine, right? With your vertebrae look like that.
Yeah.
And there's a disc in the middle. So you're pushing down on one side. And guess what's gonna fucking happen to it?
It's a hernia.
Even if it's going a different direction than the nerves, it's gonna move and it's gonna destabilize your spine. And those injuries are gonna accumulate and you're not gonna be able to lift very long.
Yeah.
Bottom line, the safest way to brace is to be neutral, to have your rib cage neutral, to have the pelvis neutral, to have the spine neutral, and to sort of pull the rib cage down towards the spine and do your bracing that way. So no matter who you are, how long your torso is, you're still going to brace like that, right? You're still going to want to cue glutes.
Yeah.
You're still going to want to, pull the scaps down. No matter what the movement is, you're still going to want to do these same universal things. It's just going to look different for me than it does for you. It's going to look different for a guy who's 6'2" than a guy who's 5'8". You have super long arms, it's going to look different.
Yeah.
But the basics are there. That stuff doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? We're gonna use the same cues. Reach for the bar, like just try and stay in extension. Things like that on bench press. Stay driven up onto your traps. It's not like you have something about you that's so unique that you don't need to be doing the heels to trap shit, or you don't need to be reaching, or you don't need to be bracing. Like, the differences are minor, and there are things, like I said, it's like minor technique variations, things like that a good coach is going to be able to see and modify with. It's a thoughtless thing. It shouldn't take a long time to see it or to identify it or to fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But are you an individual that needs like a certain special kind of training because you're so unique? No, you're not. If the goal is the same, the path is the same.
Yeah.
You might change the way you're walking a little bit, but you're going on the same fucking path.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So
So we've been going for a while, and I know we got people waiting to train, but where can people find you at? We'll plug everything down below, but
MF Swede on Instagram, dude, is and that's like my personal shit too. So I just put
Yeah.
it right out there.
Got some fun videos
for
on
anyone
there
that
too,
still uses Facebook, I'm on Facebook. So Swede Burns on
Yeah.
Facebook. Fistset.black is the website.
articles on EliteFTS.
Yeah, I have my column on EliteFTS.com. If you just Google Swede Burns,
Yeah.
you come in Google, everything will come up. Like,
Yeah.
that'll come up first, my bio and all that stuff too. Also, for anybody that reads poetry, I wrote a book of poetry this year that has done extremely well. And it's available on Amazon called Clues About Ghosts. So, kind of an aside, but
Yeah.
if you're interested in my shit, that's a big part of it. And so that's it.
Awesome, man.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
For being on. Really appreciate it.
Now,